If you're reviewing your dental practice financial statements every 3 to 6 months after the fact, you are not managing your business. You're only reviewing the history. And by the time you discover a problem, it's already cost you tens of thousands of dollars sometimes. I've seen practices lose profitability for half a year before anyone noticed, not because they weren't smart, not because they weren't working hard, but because their numbers were late. Today, I'm going to show you the real cost of waiting 3 to 6 months for your financials and why delayed reporting quietly destroys your profit. Many dental practices operate like this. January closes in April, February closes in May, March closes in June. By the time ownership sees the numbers, it's already the next quarter. So decisions get made based on bank balance, gut feeling, production reports, or it's just optimism. But without updated financial statements, you don't know if staff costs are creeping above 31%, if supplies are running about 5.5%, and lab expenses are drifting above 5.8%. If overhead is climbing, if EBITDA is sliding away from the peer average of 35%. When your numbers are delayed, problems compound quietly. And dentistry has tight margins when inefficiencies creep in. For group practices averaging around 17% EBITDA, delay is even more dangerous. If you haven't met me, my name is DJ Bhola, and we specialize in bookkeeping and financial reporting for dental practice owners. We help dental practices get clean, updated financial statements so ownership can make better business decisions with confidence. On this channel, we focus on clear numbers, better decisions, and higher profits for your dental practice. Let's look how this plays out in real numbers. Say, your practice collects about $1 million annually. Your expense percentages might look like this. Employee expenses, 31%. Dental supplies, about 5.58%. Lab, about 5.86%. Overhead, about 9.7%. And EBITDA, around 35%. Now imagine, employee expenses quietly increase to 35%. The 4% difference on the $1 million is $40,000. If that goes unnoticed for 6 months, you've potentially lost $20,000 before anybody even notices the problem. Now, add supplies creeping from 5.5% to 7%, lab drifting from 5.86% to 7%, advertising rising from 2.5% to 4%. Individually, each shift is small, but together, your EBITDA could drop from 35% to 25%. That is $100,000 in annual lost profits. And if you don't see it for half a year, half that damage is already done. Late financials delay course correction, and in business, speed matters. Delayed reporting usually happens because bookkeeping isn't prioritized. Accounts aren't reconciled each month. Credit cards are months behind. Adjustments are made only at year-end. Financial statements are prepared for tax and not for decision making. But your practice doesn't operate on a yearly cycle. It operates daily. Payroll runs every 2 weeks. Vendors are paid every month. Associates are compensated maybe in 2 weeks or maybe monthly. If your reporting rhythm doesn't match your operational rhythm, you lose control. Let's look at a couple of examples. Let's look at 2 practices. Practice A, 4 months behind on bookkeeping. Dr. Adams receives financial statements quarterly, sometimes even later. In January, she hires 2 additional team members, anticipating growth. Production increases slightly, but not enough to offset the added payroll. Employee expenses rise to 36%. But she doesn't see that until May. By then, payroll has been elevated for a whole 4 months. Cash feels tighter. She assumes collections are just seasonal. When she finally sees the numbers, she realizes margins have decreased significantly. Now she has to consider cutting hours, delay raises, have uncomfortable staffing conversations. Had she seen January numbers in February, she could have corrected in March. Instead, she's fixing in June what happened in January. That's the cost of delay. Example number 2, practice B, monthly reporting. Dr. Gwen receives clean financials by the 25th of every month. In February, he notices supplies jumped to 6.8%. Lab costs ticked at 6%. EBITDA dipped slightly. Instead of ignoring it, he reviews vendor pricing, adjusts ordering, talks with the team about the waste, reviews lab cases. Within 60 days, expenses normalize once again. The issue lasted 2 months, not 6 months. That's the power of timely data. When problems go unnoticed for months, staffing increases compound. Vendor price increases go unchecked. Overtime becomes normalized. Associate compensation formulas are not reviewed. Overhead creep becomes permanent. And the longer an inefficiency exists, the harder it is to reverse it. Behavior solidifies. Team expectations are formed that are hard to change. Contracts lock in. That's why 3 to 6 months delays are expensive. Not because you do not get numbers, but because you get them too late to influence behavior early enough. This is especially dangerous for multi-practice owners. If you own multiple practices and you're reviewing consolidated numbers 3 to 6 months late, the risk amplifies. One underperforming location can drag down overall EBITDA, hide behind stronger locations, burn cash quietly. With group practices averaging around 17% EBITDA, there's less margin for error. Delayed reporting in a multi-location environment is like driving at highway speed without a dashboard. Here is the bottom line. You cannot manage what you don't measure, and you cannot correct what you discover too late. Waiting 3 to 6 months for financials turns you into a historian, not a leader. Dental practices operating near 35% EBITDA or more do not get there by accident. They get there by reviewing numbers monthly, comparing to benchmarks, making small, consistent adjustments. Timely financial reporting shortens the feedback loop, and shorter feedback loop increases profits. If your financial statements are arriving 3 to 6 months late, it may be time to rethink how your bookkeeping process is structured. Follow us for more dental practice insights.